In this week's Torah portion, we read at the beginning of the Torah portion, where God discussing how the priests have the responsibility to maintain the ritual purity of the temple, and how the Israelites must assist him in this. How God, in the words of the Torah, says, "Do not profane my name, that I may dwell amongst you, that I may reside in my sanctuary." The rabbis pick up on this because they can't help but noticing the connection. If we profane God's name, then God is unable to dwell in God's sanctuary. The idea being that it is we as human beings who have the power to make all the difference in the world. It is we, by our actions, who are able to maintain the purity of the sanctuary, of the encampment, and of our lives. And if we maintain that level of purity, then God's name is not desecrated. I think we see a little bit of this dynamic in the events that have unfolded in our country in the past couple of weeks. How, following the tragic events of the fertilizer plant explosion in West Texas and the Boston bombing, how people came forward in response to those horrors and stepped up and were there for other people. In a sense, they were not just being there for themselves, but their actions, their compassion, their graciousness and their kindness and their love sanctified God's name, because it tapped into the most sacred and divine values that we hold of caring for one another, being there for one another, and opening ourselves up for one another. Rabbi Israel Salanter, the founder of the modern Muslim movement, said that compassion is the root and the foundation of faith, because it is when we are compassionate to one another that we are able to inspire people and raise their sense of faith in fellow human beings and in God as well. And in that sense, it is true very much what the Torah says, that if we profane God's name, then God cannot dwell amongst us. That is the power that resides within each and every one of us. And that, my friends, is your Torah in 2.